Okay, so I've got the gearbox apart, got all the gears out, and I'm checking everything for wear and damage and any problems there might be in the gearbox. And I've found two things: one fairly minor, and one very major that I'm very sort of shocked about. I'm very glad I found. So, I mean, looking at the gears to see if there's any chipped teeth or anything untoward. And on this is the fourth gear off the main on the gearbox main shaft, and I don't know how well this will pick up, but you can probably see there that there's some, I think there's a imperfection with the metal, that it's actually, whoops, the daisy decided to zoom out or go out of focus, and it's actually started to go through. Well, I imagine these are case hardened, I really don't know, but you can see that's started to go, and there's another tooth somewhere else that's yeah, that one there as well, that's also started to go. So yeah, so I'm going to replace this gear, you know, just for peace of mind really. It's not chipped or anything, but how long it would last, I don't know. It could last forever, but you know, I don't want to take that risk. You know, that sort of damage on only takes, you know. So all the other teeth are okay. Well, that, you know, gear's only as strong as its weakest tooth, you know. So I'll be replacing that. All the other gears seem fine. There doesn't seem to be any other problem. Everything seems to be good. All the dogs and so on. But then I found this major problem. If you remember, when I took the main shaft out of the gearbox, it came out with the high gear on it, and there's a reason for that. And I'm just going to swap the camera around, and we'll find out the problem. Okay, I'm hoping that the camera can handle this. It's difficult for me to see this in the camera. Right, so that's the main high gear that runs in on the main bearing in the gearbox, and that's the gearbox main shaft. Now inside the high gear are two needle roller bearings. Okay, there's one this end and there's a short gap, and there's one that end, and they run on the gearbox main shaft. I hope you can see this. I'm struggling to do both, but there's the roller bearing, the needle roller bearing, and hopefully you can just see it going round there. So I can't see it. I've got a thing in the way on the camera. Right, okay, so fine. There it is going round. Yeah. But the other end, right, if I can try and get this in some light somewhere. I don't know if I can. It's absolutely, it's not that it's stiff, that roller bearing is locked, absolutely solid. Look, it won't go around at all, and I'm putting a lot of leverage on those rollers. It's absolutely lock solid. So this bearing completely sees solid. So instead of it rolling on the main shaft has simply been sliding over the rollers. It's been okay at that end on that bearing, but this bearing, it's simply been sliding over the bearing, and as such, it's actually worn. I don't know if you can see, but it's quite shiny, and there is, if I run my nail over there, there is a very slight lip, you know, couple of thousandths of an inch, but I can feel that lip there, because this shaft is worn very slightly, where it's been where the bearing's not been doing its job. It's just been locked solid. So what I've had to do is I'm going to take these new roller bearings out, obviously, and replace them, because I think you have to really replace both, because you can't get one out without getting the other one out. And I've had to get a new gearbox main shaft for peace of mind, because the diameter here, you can probably see if I get the light right, where it's just been spinning on the bearing, and of course it's just worn that shaft by, you know, thousands. You know, it's hardened steel, but it's definitely just worn it, so I don't want to risk reusing that main shaft. So new gearbox main shaft and new needle roller bearing. So looking at it, why is it locked solid? Well, to be honest, the most obvious thing, and only reason I can think of. If you look at this bearing closely, can you see that the cage there is slightly distorted? Yeah, it's not even, it's all even circle, but there's a definite gunge in the dent in the cage. Now what I think's happened is that whoever fitted this needle roller bearing basically used too much force. It wouldn't go in. Of course, this is very soft alloy, these needle roller bearings, and whoever fitted it put it in and it wouldn't go in, and they just tapped it a bit too much and they've damaged the cage, and that's jammed the rollers on the cage. That's all I can think of. The only real problem, of course, being is that the idiot who fitted that bearing is me. But to be honest, I think I've got to hold my hand up. I can't see any other reason why that bearing isn't working. Now, that having been said, I cannot believe that I fitted a bearing and didn't check it was rolling. You know, I mean, it's not even stiff, it's completely lock solid. Maybe I damaged it a bit and it was okay, but then in use it's locked up. I don't know. Whatever the case, that's a major problem, and you know, needs replacing. How much that has affected the gear change, because I have a stiff gear change, I don't know. But I'm so glad I found this, because obviously that's a major problem, and how long things would have lasted without going bang, I don't know. All right, and here's the T150 cam plate, and that's the T160 cam plate, the new one. So just compare them. The main difference, as far as I'm concerned, is this edge here. You can see it's round on the T150, but if we look at, that's the same edge on the T160, it's cut away. So this whole sort of edge there is missing. Yeah, instead of carrying on round there in a circle, it's flat. And that is the reason that enables us to take the cam plate out past the main gear. And that means that if you ever need to take the cam plate out again, I can do that without dismantling the whole primary gearbox. So that is probably the main advantage as far as I'm concerned, and that's one reason for changing. Also, just looking at it now, you can see that the profile's different. Can you see that these, so that is first gear, these are in the same position. So first gear, neutral, have I got that right? No, that's completely wrong. Ignore that completely. Fifth gear, fourth gear, third gear, second, neutral, first, and the same round that way. But if you see that that's a sort of rounded edge, follows a circle round, and these are definitely up and down, peaks. Strange, I'm not sure why. All I know is that my T160 gear change it really is very smooth, so I can only assume they worked out that having these slight peaks was better than having the round. I don't know. The obvious other differences are you've got these two sort of like knobs, as it were, on the T160 that you haven't got on the T150. This knob is basically, I think, because you haven't got all that bit of the cam plate. So to stop the you accidentally the cam plate carrying on turning past fifth, they've put a little nodule on there. That will affect us because that actually sticks out further than that does, and that actually just catches the casing on the gearbox, and so I'm going to just have to cut down or ease the edge of the gearbox to allow that nodule to go past it, or in actually fact get a Dremel and grind it down. We'll have a look at that in a minute. The other thing is, of course, it's got the bit sticking out here, and that is for the I think that's for the neutral indicator switch on a T160. Obviously redundant in our case, but that's what it's for. Apart from that, the grooves look pretty simple for the pretty similar for the actual selectors. So it's just the outer edge is different, and I shall probably be polishing up this edge with a Dremel to make sure it's nice and smooth so that the plunger can work on it properly. Okay, there we go. Right, I've I've got the new cam plate in, just roughly to see, and I've got it wrong. It's actually the indicator switch nodule that's the one that sticks out a bit too much, the neutral. So that would be in first gear if the plunger was there, then second and so on, and the plan goes round. That's third gear, then it goes round to fourth gear, you see there. But then when it tries to go to fifth, it can't make fifth. There's that notch there because that neutral is catching the gearbox there. So it just catches the edge. So cut the gear. I'll cut that gear casing down. I'll cut the casing down, I think, rather than the plate, because I'm guessing the plate is hardened steel and I could be there for a long time. Whereas the casing obviously is soft alloy, and I literally just need to take, 1/16 of an inch off the inside of the edge just to allow that to rotate fully. Also, I think you can only get T160 cam plates now. I don't think you can get a T150, so if you did need to replace it, you'd have to put a T160 in anyway. But yeah, when you see, look, you see there, see that flat edge there, that's the bit that's cut away, and that would then, that's where the high gear goes, and of course it means that you would be able to then pull it out. The high gear's sitting there, and of course it just can go out past the high gear, and then it will come out without having to take all the primary off. So I'll leave it there for today. I'm just waiting for the parts to arrive. I'll wait for they're due tomorrow, the new bearings and the new main shaft, and so I'll do a short video and the new gear, that is. I'll do a short video of removing, and this time hopefully replacing correctly the these needle roller bearings in the main shaft. And if I can get that out, I'll try and get it out as gently as I can so I can have a look and really see how it's jamming. But I'm sure there's just very slight damage to the alloy casing, and that's what's caused the needle rollers to jam. Right, anyway, do that tomorrow. Apart from that, I think I'm right in saying I've checked everything else. Everything else seems good. I've also checked the, as Warren was suggesting, I've also checked the selector stud bar, the one that was that the selector forks run on, to check that it is indeed flat. And to do that, I've actually rolled it on some marble. I haven't got any glass, but having just done the bathroom, I did have some marble just handily sitting around, and so I've rolled it on that, and just looked underneath and checked that there's no gaps, and it's all good. It seems totally straight. Okay. Everything else on the gearbox seems fine. I've checked all the gears and bearings and so on, and they all seem okay, and all the bushes. It seems like these bushes that are inside the gears and so on, but everything seems good. There's no, obviously there's slight wear, but there's no signs of anything chipping or excess wear or anything like that. So apart from what we've already said, we're pretty good to go.